Senator Paul.
Thank you for your testimony. I continue to support a negotiated solution and think it preferable to war. I think military solution in all likelihood will accelerate the possibility of them having nuclear weapons, of ending inspections, et cetera. However, it does have to be a good deal, and I think that's the debate we have. Secretary Kerry, I guess I would ask is, in general, how would you describe Iran's history of compliance with international agreements? Would you say they're generally trustworthy or generally untrustworthy?
There's no trust built into this deal at all. It's not based on any concept of trust.
But, and I agree. I think everybody sort of understands that. The Ayatollah's recent comments where he said, the Americans say they stopped Iran from acquiring a nuclear weapon. They know it's not true. So we have the history of untrustworthiness. We have a lot of verbal or verbiage coming from the Ayatollah already saying, well, this really isn't any limitation on our ability to make a weapon. So really then it comes down to a good agreement. Someone asked, well, will this stop them from having a nuclear weapon? Yeah, if they comply, sure. So then the question is compliance. And my question and I guess my problem is that there's a great deal of credence being given to snapback, sanctions as this way, as this lever to get them to comply. Secretary Liu talked about there being a phased reduction in sanctions. That's not exactly the way I read the agreement, though, because they do have to do some things, and I think they're significant things, reducing the amount of enriched uranium, et cetera, to a low level and getting rid of centrifuges, et cetera. The problem is that the wording of the agreement then says the sanctions are simultaneously withdrawn, and the vast majority are. There's some compliance, but to me it's the initiation of compliance. I'm more worried about the continuing compliance after that, and I think the argument would be that snapback sanctions will be that lever. I guess my preference would have been that there would have been more of truly a phased reduction or a stepwise reduction over a many-year period of the sanctions and not the immediate release of sanctions. And I guess my question is, in the negotiations, was there discussion? Was it ever our position that we shouldn't have simultaneous release of all sanctions, but more stepwise or gradual reduction in sanctions to ensure compliance?
Well, this was obviously at the heart of the negotiation, which is why we drove such what we consider to be very hard bargain with respect to what they needed to do. That is, look, it was always the fundamental equation of this negotiation. You folks pass sanctions, we pass sanctions. And our passage of sanctions was specifically to bring them to the table to negotiate. So if that was the negotiating lever, clearly when they came to the table, they wanted the lever taken away. And so the quid pro quo here was always, what restraints will we get? What insight to their program? What long-term commitments can we get? They can't get a bomb. How do we fulfill President Obama's pledge to close off the 4 pathways to a bomb? That's the exchange. And they get some relief from sanctions. Now, their insistence for 2 years was obviously this notion, and all the way to the end, actually, has to all go away at once. Everything, all sanctions, all the UN, everybody's sanctions. Well, we resisted that. We didn't do that. That's not what happened. What we did was we wound up securing the 1-year breakout time, going from 2 months to 1 year, securing the safety of reducing their operable centrifuges and reducing the research that they could do on the next advanced wave of centrifuges, reducing the stockpile, locking it in at a low level that couldn't produce a bomb, locking in their enrichment level at a low level that can't produce a bomb. So in exchange for all of the things we've required them to do, which, by the way, Senator, are genuinely extensive, they have to undo their piping. They have to undo their electrical. They have to move things. There's a huge amount of work they do. So when that is done, I don't know whether it'll be 6 months or a year, but when it is done, we lift the fundamental component of financial and banking sanctions that were the heart of what brought them to the table. That's the exchange.
But I guess the point is that everybody that's for the agreement, yourself included, are saying this will prevent them from having a nuclear weapon, and the Ayatollah is saying exactly the opposite.
Well, no, the Ayatollah has actually, and you're the intel community, I urge you to connect with them. There is no decision there whatsoever. What he's doing is protecting his domestic turf.
I know,
By the
but
way,
he's saying the opposite.
Well-
He's saying that this is not true, that this does not stop us from acquiring a nuclear weapon. That troubles us. Zarif was saying the same thing in March when you came out with your statement of what you thought the agreement meant.
Yeah.
They were saying the opposite. It troubles us.
Here, let me
Those
fill
who
you in.
want, I want a negotiated settlement. I want to believe that we could have an agreement, but it troubles us that immediately the Iranians say the opposite
No, he's
of what
not
we're being
saying the
told.
opposite of this. In fact, the supreme leader's quote is in this document that Iran will never go after a nuclear weapon, and the Iranians happily put that in, and the intel community will tell you they have made zero decision
Right, but
to try
you
to go for
dispute
it.
what he said this week. The Americans say they
know what he
stopped
said.
Iran from acquiring a nuclear weapon. They know it's not true.
And you know why he's saying that? Because he doesn't believe the Americans stopped us. He believes he stopped them because he issued a fatwa. And he has declared the policy of their country is not to do it. So he is, as a matter of sovereignty and pride, making a true statement. He doesn't believe the Americans stopped them. He said they didn't want to get one in the first place.
Thank you.